כולם מכירים את סוף הסיפור.
אתה יודע איך הסיפור התחיל?
התערבות.
כלומר,
הוא הפסיד בהתערבות לכמה פלישתים, הוא לא לקח את זה יפה, ומשם זה יידרדר.
איפה פגשת את שמשון בפעם הראשונה?
ליד נחל סורק. הוא אהב להסתובב איפה שיש הרבה פלישתים, בעיקר פלישתיות. השרירים והשיער. הוא היה גבר מאוד מרשים.
אני שמרתי בעמדת שמירה בשדות של אקרון בלילה של השריפה. זאת הייתה בעצם הפעם הראשונה שאני נתקלתי בו.
פגשתי אותו? כשהוא חטף אותי פגשתי אותו. לא יודע כמה זמן הייתי סגור שם. אבל הוא הפסיק לצוד, רק שלא נשאר מקום בכלוב אפילו לגור שואלים קטן. עוד אחד, ועוד אחד, ועוד אחד.
שמע, אתה עומד בעמדה בדיוק בשביל מצבים כאלה. אבל בלילה הוא... אני לא הבנתי מה אני רואה. לא הבנתי.
אני רצתי, פשוט רצתי. בהתחלה כדי לברוח ממנו. אחר כך מהאש.
לפני שפגשת אותו, שמעת עליו?
בוודאי. אחרת לא היינו יודעים לפנות אליו כשביקשנו שיסגיר את עצמו. הפלישתים פשוט ישבו לנו על הווריד.
אז אחרי השריפה כבר ידעתם מי זה שמשון. כמה אנשים הייתם בהסגרה שלו?
היינו שם מאות חיילים חמושים.
את ההנחיות שלו הוא קיבל מלמעלה. אף פעם לא ידענו מה הוא מתכנן.
זה שאני יצאתי משם חי, זה פשוט נס.
כשפנו אליי מהצבא הפלישתי, אני לא חשבתי שזה יהיה קשה. היחסים שלנו היו כאלה זה לא היה קשה.
הוא היה סוליסט.
סוליסט?
כן, הוא עשה הכל בעצמו, למען עצמו, לבד. וככה הוא גם הלך.
לא אכפת לי מה הוא עשה אחרי, ולא מעניין אותי כמה נורא היה המוות שלו. מה שאני כן יודע, זה איך אני ועוד 300 שואלים יצאנו מהסיפור הזה.
את כמעט ולא מנהלת חיים ציבוריים בכלל, נכון?
נכון. אין לי ברירה. אני בין הפטיש לסדן. בשביל הישראלים אני בגדתי. ובשביל הפלישתים אני בגדתי.
אתה מבין? הוא לקח איתו אלפים, נשים וילדים, ולפני זה שדד, שרף, רצח.
והכל בגלל התערבות. התערבות! ואתה בא לבדוק אם הוא היה גיבור.
first Nadav climbed the Everest 3 times and saved the Turkish guy. I made a nice cartoon. What a douchebag I am for being on the same stage with these people. Anyway, a few years back, I was facing the challenge of coming up with a thesis film that would sum up my years of studying animation at Bezalel Academy for Arts and Design in Jerusalem. And I had a whole year to come up with this 6-minute short. So you really want to nail your story right from the beginning. And for me, animation is all about the story. It's a great way to tell your story and what you want to say. It's limitless, you can do whatever you want. And for some reason, when you want to address a delicate subject, people have a better approach to it when it's in a cartoon and not an actor. So I was looking for my idea, and it came from a character. At the time, I was doodling this raccoon-like fox character, and I really wanted to find a way to embed it into my story. And as many ideas, good or bad, come to people, I too was in a bathtub when the thought of Samson's foxes came to mind. And I was really excited, and I jumped out of the tub, and I think I wore something, it doesn't matter, I burst into the next room and said, listen. You know the foxes that I've been doodling? Well, Samson, the guy from the Bible, he had this revenge stunt where he used foxes. I'm going to tell Samson's story from the point of view of the fox. So I was pretty proud of myself, the idea was born. And I started researching Samson. And I was surprised to find that I didn't remember him as I researched him. Because we were all taught that Samson was a great, great hero. A mighty warrior who single-handedly defeated armies of his enemies. And from my research, he wasn't a hero at all. And I'll tell you why in a minute. I felt like I had a solid premise to my movie. I knew what I wanted to say. I was about to tell a well-known story from a different angle, fresh characters. So I felt that the documentary genre would serve me best. And of course I did it in animation, because otherwise you have to come up with special effects, battle scenes, explosions. You have to find a trained talking fox actor. And you can rarely find a fox that wants to go into the acting business. They're smart. So a biblical documentary animation was the genre of my choice. And the script was ready. I started working on my animation, but I never quitted researching Samson. I was fascinated by the character. I read books and articles, and I listened to rabbis talking in podcasts. There's thousands of those for some reason. And I wrote my own academic papers on him. I had to answer the question of why don't I see him as a hero, as I suggested in the short you just saw. And I'll try to break down my findings. When I think of a hero, I think of two crucial aspects. He has to have extraordinary actions and a righteous and an unselfish cause. So if you want to check this method and use it on some modern heroes, we can talk about Captain Stali Sullenberger. He's a pilot who landed a plane on the Hudson River and successfully saved over 150 people's life. Of course, extraordinary action was the best performed emergency landing on water in commercial flight history. Avi Toibin was jogging on the Yarkon Park in Tel Aviv when he saw a flipped kayak in the water. He jumped in and saved his twin Fango's life. Again, extraordinary action. He was the only one in a packed park to jump in the water and unselfishly rescue the stranger. And of course, I just need to mention Nadav Embon that spoke here, that rescued the Turkish guy and gave up his own dreams, which is amazing. To go back to the method. So you can be, for example, someone with a cause, but without the action, you might be an activist, or just a guy with good intentions. If you have the extraordinary actions, but you don't have the cause, you might be a great athlete or an artist or performer. But when you have the extraordinary actions and you get the cause, but you have it all wrong, you immediately turn from a hero into a villain. Because the concept of heroism is not an objective one. It's very subjective. Right and wrong, it's very subjective. That's what turns one man's hero, another man's villain. And Samson, he lacked the second part. He lacked the cause. Samson was put on earth by God with great powers, but also with a mission. His mission was to bring salvation to his people, the Israeli tribes. And instead, every fight, every battle he had with the Philistines started from his own personal quarrel with them. Not an unselfish cause, and not in the best interest of his own people. In the book of Masechet Avot, it's written that it's asked and answered, who is a hero? A hero is one who can conquer his desires. Now, this definition doesn't fit Samson at all. He was a very passionate character. He was a poetic, romantic, sexual being with big violence tendencies, and for his behavior, God punished him very severely in one of the most gruesome deaths the Old Testament has to offer. In biblical terms, his downfall came from a woman, and that's a great humiliation. His eyes were gorged out, and he was imprisoned and displayed in shame in front of his enemies to mock him, and did so for many days before he invented the kamikaze suicide attack that we all know him for today. And even in his last moments, when he turns to God and prays for strength, he prays, remember me and strengthen me only this once, O God, so that with this one act of revenge I may pay back the Philistines for my 2 eyes. For my 2 eyes. So even in his last breath, he's still consumed with his own personal vendetta. In my eyes, Samson is a great character. Terrific character with a brilliant story. But he's also a tragic victim. A victim of the longest ongoing war between men, the war about gods and false gods. A victim just like the poor little fox. And I suggested the concept of him being a victim in the movie in his death sequence when I personalized him, and a little bit in the design resemblance between the fox and actually Samson himself with their hair and his tail. So why is Samson considered to be a hero? It's not mentioned anywhere in the Bible that he's a hero. But Samson nevertheless is a hero, because heroes were needed. The Jews were scattered and persecuted for years, and in great need for heroes that are brave and strong and would never give up, never surrender, never let their own people perish. The trauma of thousands of years of exile and last century's Holocaust drove us to clinch the myth of heroism, and at the time it was the right thing to do for our survival. But times have changed. We're in a university in the middle of the desert. That's amazing. Ben-Gurion, who wanted us to be a stronger, new Jewish nation, succeeded. That's what we are now. And since we know how to adapt rules and constitutions to our current priority of moral values, we need to remember that there's other factors that influence the norms of our society, other factors than laws. Because we have corrupted values in our society today. We have groups that in the name of God claim price tags on innocent people while chanting Samson's suicide prayer. We have teenagers who are willing to kill and be killed in the name of their own pride and honor just because someone told them to keep it down at night or refuse to give them a cigarette when they ask for it. Death on your own pride and honor, death to innocent people because of God. We need to think and evaluate what are the values that we want to draw from our mythology and folklore. And our drive to be a moral and progressive society, it doesn't have to come with a toll on our heritage. Our cultural assets should be kept safe. We should refer to them in religious studies, in academics, in arts, maybe animation, whatever you want. We should keep taking tourists and birthright groups to Masada and tell them the historic significance of the place and how beautiful it is. But don't tell them heroic tales about these people who lived there. The people who lived on Masada came from Jerusalem after they burned and stole food supplies from their own people, went to the desert, lived off pillaging villages, and when the Romans came close, they committed mass suicide. What's heroic about that? They weren't a democratic community. It's not like they gathered everybody and said, okay, we're planning on mass suicide, so let's vote on it. And someone rose their hand and said, okay, mass suicide sounds pretty good. Let's put it in the maybe box. Have we considered fighting back? Let's surrender. It's much more likely that several men, not women, decided on mass suicide, and then butchered the rest of them. We need to rethink how we want our heritage to influence our current moral code. Redefine heroism and prioritize our values as a society in modern times. And prioritize our values as individuals. For me, life and love.